If we're not changing our minds, we're not really thinking through some things. Nobody has all the answers correctly. Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Licona for Houston Christian University, and I've got some special guests today I want to bring on. And these are two of my students. I've had them in a couple of classes, and they've just been a delight to get to know. And there's some unique things about them. So I want to bring them on. First, I want to bring on Mikhail Abakumov. And Mikhail, he's in Poland right now, but he's got an interesting story that we'll bring in. And then also Matt Smith. He's also from overseas. And welcome to both of you. Great to have you on today to talk about some stuff.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Doctor.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Mikhail, let's start with you. You're currently in Poland, but that's not where you're from. Tell us where you're from and how you ended up in Poland.
Yeah. Again, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and I apologize for my bad English. So it's not my first language, and it's not my strong point, but I will try to make the best of it. So I was born in and raised in Donetsk. It's Ukraine, and in this city, the war in Ukraine started in 2014. So in this war, which turned into a full-scale war in 2022. So since 2014, Donetsk has been occupied by Russia. So in order to study, to be a theologian for me in Ukraine, I had to constantly cross borders and go through different inspections and so on. So, and when full-scale war began in 2022, Russia introduced stricter, very hard laws for the occupied cities. For example, first, a general mobilization of all men to the front began. So, in fact, people were simply grabbed on the street and taken to war against the citizens of our own country, Ukraine. Secondly, any words against the war became forbidden, as well as any connections with Western organizations. And since I had violated all two laws, so I spoke out against the war, and I also all of my activities with Christian Western ministries, like Reasonable Faith, like Cross-Examined. I have many connections with Western organizations, so I also violate this law. And so I also did not plan to go to war against Ukrainian citizens because it's crazy. And so I was forced to flee Donetsk, and that's how I became a refugee who ended up living in Poland for the second year for now. So this is my story very briefly.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're safe. I guess this has been really a trying time for you. I'm sorry about that. Matt, you're from, you've got an interesting accent as well.
Yeah, not quite as awesome as Mikhail's, but yes.
So you're from China, right?
Yes, sir. I'm from Oxford, about 20-25 minutes outside of Oxford. The university wouldn't have me, unfortunately, but I've lived here in the United States for the last 9 years. Since I was 18, I first lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and then I got born again 4 years into being in the US when I was 22. Spent another 4 years in Cleveland and enrolled in HCU last summer. So I've spent almost a year here in Houston, and I'm really enjoying it. My story isn't as cool as Mikhail's, I'll tell you that. But I'll tell you what, God has been really good to me, and He's completely changed my life, and I'm really loving it here at HCU right now.
Amen. How do you like Houston compared to Cleveland?
Yeah, the weather's a lot better. Cleveland's snowy. Look, yeah. Cleveland is snowy. The people of Cleveland, I love them. I love Cleveland people. Houston people are very nice too. I'm a country boy. I was raised in the country, out with the horses and the sheep and the rabbits. So Houston it's not. I was expecting when I came to Texas to see a couple tumbleweeds, hear a couple accents, but you don't have a lot of that in Houston. But Houston is nice nonetheless. The weather's great. I like the hot, so yeah, it's good.
Well, last time I was in Cleveland, don't remember what year it was, but I was doing a thing between three cities. I remember it was I was in Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico, where the temperature was, I don't know, probably in the low 90s. And then from there, I went to D.C., Washington, D.C., and then from there to Cleveland. So you've got all these temperature changes, of course, from really hot to really cold. It was 13 degrees in Cleveland. So you had to dress for both, but I left my winter coat on the plane. So all I had in Cleveland was a sweatshirt, and it was snowing and 13 degrees. And I don't know what that is in Celsius, Mikhail, but in Fahrenheit, 13 degrees is pretty cold. I guess it's, it's negative something in Celsius, but it was cold. I remember that. But yeah, Cleveland was kind of neat.
Yeah, I imagine as a Ravens fan, when you saw Cleveland on the schedule historically, you've probably relaxed and have some good feelings about seeing them.
Yeah. I was glad when the Browns moved to Baltimore and we got a football team back. And I can understand why there's a rivalry between Cleveland and Baltimore. But, when we lost the Colts in the 1980s and they went to Indianapolis, they kept the Colts name. So still, when I see that horseshoe on the helmet, it gives me some bad feelings. But because they kept the name and the logo, but at least we did not take the name or the Browns color scheme and all of that.
Yeah, hopefully you just stop beating us at some point.
Well, it's Ravens they're a tough team. They've been a good team for a while, but yeah. Hey, so both of you are in the Master of Arts in Christian Apologetics at HCU. Mikhail, would you tell us what led you to get into the program?
Yeah. So I became a Christian as a teenager. So if I can tell my brief story, I grew up in a family of former Christians who left one of the Protestant churches because of the so-called prosperity gospel. And watching this fraud in the church, this left a very negative mark on the soul of my parents, especially my father. So I never sought to believe in God or attend church. My life was pretty typical to a teenager, and it was hardly something too special. But one day I have depression. So depression comes into my life, and it had no definite cause, but I was in very deep depression. Something happened inside of me, and so I was thinking about suicide because it was very hard for me. And I also thinking that is there any meaning in my life? Because I thought that if God exists, I can have some meaning in my life and I can possibly have some exit from this situation. And so at that time was the beginning of my spiritual search. And in this period, sometime I talked with very heavy atheist who was like very heavy critic of religion, and he just refuted all of my questions, all of my arguments, and so on. And so in that point, because I was already like a Christian in that period, I then made the decision that I should investigate the question of God's existence, and I should find some grounds and reasons for believing in the existence of God. So in this like stage of agnostic Christian, I was led in this journey, and I start to reading books by various atheists like Richard Dawkins, like Christopher Hitchens, and so on. And I also, in parallel, start to reading books like by William Lane Craig, John Lennox, and so on. And eventually, through this process, I became a Christian through apologetics, and this thus began my journey in the study of Christian theology and apologetics. And because of apologetics was very helpful to me, I decided that I want to actually give apologetics to other people. So I want to, I would like to contribute in Ukraine, in Eastern Europe, in this field. So, and I decided to translate and distribute some materials from English to Ukrainian and Russian because for my because situation is very bad in our country, because we have very little books or articles or speakers in the field of theology and apologetics, because we have 70 years of atheism in USSR, as you know, and so we have a huge gap between West and our country. And so I decided just to translate materials, and I also would like to make my own contribution to this sphere, and that's why I felt a call immediately to go to study theology. And so I went to Ukrainian seminary, and I hold a bachelor degree for now. I also went to seminary another after bachelor degree, and I'm now studying in Kiev in religious studies at the St. Thomas Aquinas Institute. And I also would like to have degree in apologetics because it's my passion. It's my first field that's why I became a Christian, because of apologetics. And I always have like a dream that I would like to have education in this area, learning from the people that I looked up in my ministry, like William Craig, like you, Dr. O'Connor, like other people. So it was like my dream, and that's why I go to HCU. And it was interesting because it seems absolutely impossible for me to study at HCU when I was in Donetsk, because as you know, the salary in Ukraine and salary in USA, it's huge different. But even when I found that I became a student of HCU, I still don't have any free money to study at HCU. So I even don't know why I go to HCU. But somehow I found work that now I can pay for HCU. I don't know if this work would be continued through my studies, but I believe that God will make sure that I will be able to study in the future. I don't know, but all of this is like my journey to find out that I would like to make contribution to Ukraine in sphere apologetics, and I would like to help teenagers, people like me, and other people who are interested in apologetics to know that we have good reasons to believe that Christianity is true. Something like this.
That's cool. So right now you're enrolled in studying in two schools, in theology in Kiev and apologetics at HCU. Is that right? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes. So I study religious studies in Ukraine and apologetics in HCU.
Wow. Well, thanks. So just one more thing before we go. What led you to come to HCU? Why choose HCU rather than, say, some of the other schools that offer Christian apologetics degree programs?
Yeah, main reason because initially I would like to find some program that would be very effective and very deep to me, to understand some deep questions about, I don't know, epistemology, ontology, how we can be effective in Christian studies, because I always have these questions, deep questions about how we know this and how we can answer to this skeptical scenario. And most
but why did you? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and most seminaries, like in Ukraine, we don't have any program in apologetics at all. So we have some little bit, but don't have it at all.
So and why HCU over some of the others here in the US?
Yeah, and because I know your work, I know work of Dr. Craig, I know work of other people who teach at HCU. So I have basically two options. It's Biola University or HCU. And I ask different people, and they say me that in HCU now we have like better program for you as an international student, and we have good opportunities to you, something like this. So that's why I try to get at HCU, and finally I get. Something like
Okay.
this.
Wonderful. Matt, so tell us a little about yourself. What got you interested in apologetics? And what got you interested in apologetics to begin with?
Yeah, so when I got saved, essentially the realization that I came to before giving my life to Christ was the first part of that first passage in Ephesians chapter 2. I'd come to the realization, I always kind of believed God was probably real, just from a logical standpoint. Every time I tried to persuade myself to be like, no, be an atheist, no, there's nothing. My conscience was always tugging at me a little bit, and I was always like, come on, man, you know there's something else. So I started to think, the way I'm living. I started drinking when I was 13 years old. There was a lot of inappropriate stuff going on with me as a child, and obviously that led through my teens, through my 20s. I was raised in a secular household, and I looked at my life and I thought, I think I'm in really big trouble if God's real, and I really think he's real. But if he's real, there's got to be a way out. I'm still alive, right? So there's got to be a way out, and that's where I allude to the first half of that first passage in Ephesians chapter 2, where it says, I was dead in my transgressions, by nature deserving of wrath. And that was a realization that I came to. I was like, look, if I get in front of God, I hope he just laughs it off and is like my father and would say, hey, man, you had some fun. That's how it goes. That's funny. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. And a friend introduced me to Jesus Christ by praying for me, praying with me, introduced me to the Bible. We would read Proverbs a lot. He kind of used that to get me interested. He's actually my best friend now. So shout out to him. But eventually sort of the wisdom of God and his divinity was clear to me. I believed he was real, but there was something missing. And I shared this with him, and I said, look, like, I just don't think I can change. I don't think I can actually live this out, dude. And I'm so scared of repeating what I've constantly repeated throughout my life. And I can't stop doing it now. And I'm worried about what I used to do. And he said, but it's under the blood. And I said, well, whatever do you mean? And he explained the impact and the meaning of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And then he left the room because we were busy doing something. And I just shut the door and just wept. My whole life changed when I learned about the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was like my broken, empty heart was the prince, and Cinderella was Jesus Christ, and that hole in my heart just got filled by Christ immediately. It fit perfectly. And I suppose the ugly stepsister would have been, humanism, atheism, Islam, whatever else. So Jesus really changed my life, and it all hinged on the death and resurrection of Christ, the shed blood of Christ, and the resurrection power that came. Because, there's power in that. That's not just a cute story. That means something. So as far as why apologetics from there, well, if it changed my life, it better be real. I can't get to the end of my life and find out this is all hocus pocus. There better be some good information backing this up, some good data, some history, as well as some philosophical truths that go with it. So I think from then on, I had on the back burner, it was kind of sizzling in the back of my mind. This was 2019. Maybe you should go to school for this. I was about to graduate with my bachelor's. And then, I worked in finance for a little bit, went back and got my MBA, I carried on with that. And then last year, the opportunity came about with HCU, and I did apply to other schools because I didn't know any better. I had no knowledge of the academic prowess or the professors at HCU, really. But they were incredibly helpful and incredibly diligent, and they offered me a position in residence life, which helped me pay for it. But I still had to pay for school. But with the help of Dr. Talon and other great people at SCT, We look for scholarships because I'm an international student. I can't work. So those things are a big deal. But the thing that I love about HCU, I'm guessing that was going to be your next question to me, Dr. Licona.
Sure.
HCU professors really make you take the scripture seriously. I say make you. They encourage you to do so and they model it. One thing I say, there's plenty of things missing from my Christianity, but the biggest one was probably the respect and reverence I had for scripture. And I didn't know that I had a lack of reverence for scripture. I thought that it was okay that I lent on my own experiences and the tradition that I had, been around this last sort of 4 years. But instead of using those to help me find out what the scriptures are saying, I kind of let that be my Christianity. And I think that blocked me off a little bit. Not to say that experience and tradition is completely useless. I don't believe that. But I will say being around Dr. Freeman, taking classes with Dr. Licona, having conversations with Dr. Talon, Professor Richard Olds, people like that, Dr. Randy Hatchett, they have led me to take the scripture really seriously, deny myself. It's helped my Christianity as much as it has my academics, and it really I'm hoping that's starting to show in my YouTube channel. I include a lot more scripture than I previously did, but I hope that answers the question, and that's certainly what anybody can expect coming to HCU.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more. You were involved in, you mentioned like Professor Hatchett and some of these who are in a different program. You didn't start off in the apologetics program, did you?
That's right. I started off in the Master of Divinity program. Again, this is my first Christian education. I took classes in England in theology where, we would have exercises where we would write down things that could have happened to raise Jesus that weren't resurrection power. And then the teacher would say, very good, well done, because clearly that didn't happen. And that was my exposure to religious education, completely biased, not scholarly, not good, not well thought out. So I didn't know. And again, I think the MDiv was a good option for me, but I think the apologetics one is simply better. As far as, with my YouTube channel, helping other people come to Christ, explaining all the implications of the grace of Jesus Christ, which he paid for on the cross.
Mikhail, how has your experience at HCU been so far?
Yeah, so far,
especially being a distant student. So Matt is there on campus. So I guess, Matt, you have a hybrid program. You're doing some courses on campus and you're doing some online. But Mikhail, all of your stuff is online, right?
Yeah. And I had only one course for now, so I don't have much experience to share about. But I like HCU and especially this program because it's very comfortable, because I can read and write in every period, every time in my day, so I don't obligate to be in this place in that time on some dates and so on. So I have very free schedule, because I'm very busy because we have many works in church with refugees. Okay, I have usual job and so on. So it is very comfortable to me, because this program it's helped me to create my own schedule and to deep dive in these questions. So I really like it, and I like the quality of education. So I like that I could study under you, great expert. I could study under David Badgett and so on. These people who are really expert, who know their stuff, and so it's privilege to me to study, because I never anticipated that it would be possible for me, because my English is very bad, my money is not good, and so on. So, but it's all by God grace, and I'm really glad that I could do this.
So the convenience has been wonderful for you. Let me ask you this. So over there, well, whether Ukraine or Poland, you, in your master's programs over there and undergrad, you do those in class, right? Or do you do some of that distance learning over there as well?
No, for now, I also do this in distance in Kyiv, but but we have like online lectures, not this style like in the HCU, but we should listen lectures and write notes and so on.
Gotcha. Matt, so you're doing the hybrid. You have some in person there on campus, and then you do some. You've done some courses online. Compare the two. And we haven't discussed this beforehand, so I want you to be entirely honest. How would you compare the learning experience online versus in class?
Yeah, so I'm not just saying this just because it's we're on your channel, Dr. Licona, but I got a lot out of the one online class that I've taken in apologetics and probably will take. I might take some others, and I may do another degree after this one, but I can still speak to the experience. And I've taken online classes at other schools, and they're not always that good. They're not always very involved, but I tell you that in the online class that I took here with you, Dr. Licona, which was the philosophy of resurrection and history, it was incredibly involved. We were held to a really high standard as far as like, hey, are you saying stuff that is honest, that has intellectual integrity? Are you saying things that actually help the case for Christ in truth, and not just baloney that sounds good, but good apologetics? There was a lot of work. Look, it's an 8-week course. It's compressed, but it was. There were points where I was lost, but never to a point where I couldn't get back. And also, you were pretty available, Dr. Licona. And from speaking to other people, I believe the other professors here are similar in availability to help teach and explain. And some of the books that we were given to read were awesome. I mean, The Resurrection of Jesus Christ, a new historiographical, I struggle with that word, approach. But rather, I got a lot out of it. There were a lot of discussion boards, and Mikhail, I think your English is better than you give yourself credit for, because I read a lot of your discussion boards. They look great. It was really good. I've taken some pretty redundant online classes in the past, which you just mailing it in, or you're lost the whole 8-week period. But that was not my experience here. I learned a ton, and it really sharpened me. It sharpened me because we have some really good professors here at HCU. Seriously, not just like, oh, I like them. Like, no, they're actually, top of the, cream of the crop. And then it sharpens you. It wakes you up. I definitely became smart in places that I thought I was already smart. And now I think I'm a little less smart, which is good. That's exactly what you want from these classes, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. There was I'm not going to mention his name, but or the school he went to. He was halfway or maybe a third of the way through a master's degree in Christian apologetics at another major Christian university. And I don't want to give away his, I'll say who it is. His name's Mike DeVito, and he was playing in the NFL at the time. And so he had contacted me through what was known as Twitter at the time. And he said he wanted to switch schools to come over to HCU. And I said, the other school you're going to right now is a great school. It's a great program. You're already a third into it. Why not just finish there? I mean, we'd love to have you, but, it's money and time involved. And he said, money was not an object because the NFL was paying, I guess they will pay up to $40,000 a year at the time for the rest of your life for schooling, if you've played in the NFL for a certain amount of years. So he said money's not the thing, and he wanted to come and study with several of us at HCU. So when it was over, I said, okay, you've been through both programs, and very honestly, I'm sure they're pretty comparable at this other major Christian university that is known for apologetics and HCU. I said, compare the two. And he said, Mike, there's just no comparison. HCU was much better. And to be honest, that really surprised me. And I said, why? And he said, well, at the other school, which he was doing that because he was in the NFL and stuff, he was doing that online as well. He said, he said this. He said, the books and the topics that you guys get into at HCU in the courses are much deeper and comprehensive than what we ever did at the other school. And he said that the professors were far more involved with the students. They were available more. They were far more involved than at the other school. So, I mean, that surprised me. The other school is great. It really is. And but HCU is that much better. Yeah. So I appreciate what you were saying there, Matt. So both of you, one other thing I'd mention about HCU that I really like over some of these other schools. You usually have to agree to a statement of faith, either to get into those schools or to graduate from them. And if you don't agree with that very narrow statement of faith, some of these schools won't even allow you to graduate. Whereas at HCU, we don't require a student to embrace any kind of statement of faith to get in or to get out. And our statement of faith for professors, it's an evangelical one. It's more like a C.S. Lewis mere Christianity. The professors here at HCU, we believe in the virgin birth, that God created, but we don't talk about the mode of creation, whether it's a special creation, young earth, old earth, theistic evolution, progressive evolution, something like that. It's just God created. Jesus was born of a virgin. Jesus is the uniquely divine Son of God. He's deity. Atoning death on the cross, his bodily resurrection, salvation by faith, and the scriptures are divinely inspired. Other than that, there's a lot of diversity of opinion amongst the professors. I kind of like that, and it's really neat. We all get along too. We focus on that which is the essentials of the Christian faith, and I was attracted to that at HCU before I was even came aboard with them, like 12 years ago. And I continue to really appreciate and value that. In that sense, we are unique. We're different from other schools that have apologetics programs. Okay, so both of you, what I think is pretty neat about both of you both have YouTube channels, and you do some really cool stuff. So Mikhail, why don't you tell us about your YouTube channel? Of course, I'm going to provide a link to both of your channels in the description. But Mikhail, how long have you had your channel? What do you do on that channel?
Yeah. And first of all, I completely agree with you about statement of faith, because as apologist, we have in Ukraine many young earth creationists, and I suppose most seminary in Ukraine, the young earth creationists. So I have many problems. They think that I'm heretic and something like this, so I really appreciate this point about HCU. And yeah, I lead both an online project and local ministry in local church. So in terms of online project, we have in Russian and in Ukrainian. So this is similar languages, but not exactly.
You're saying,
similar.
I'm sorry, it was kind of hard to understand through your accent. You said online project?
Yes, online project.
In the church. Okay.
And this online project we have in two languages, Russian and Ukrainian. So Russian language is understandable for many countries in Western Europe, in Eastern Europe, but Ukrainian it's for Ukrainian people in Ukraine. And so because I believe education is necessary component, and because I really appreciate apologetics and I understand that apologetics is very important, that's why my main work is translating and distributing these materials on theology, on good theology, good apologetics in our languages. And for now, for example, I have translated 3 books into Russian, like this On Guard from William Craig in Russian, as you see. And we translate some books in Russian, in Ukrainian. And I also translate articles, videos, debates, because I would like that people just at least know who, like you or who like Dr. Craig, what their what they doing and something like this. Because as I said, in Ukraine we have very big problem with education, with Christian education, with theology. So my main task is just to translate these materials and to give to people. I also record my own videos, like my reaction to some atheists, some Muslim. We have many Muslims in our countries, but my main approach is to just to give the best to our people, that our people can appreciate apologetics and use in Ukraine and Russia and other countries.
Great. So how many languages do you speak then?
So it's Russian, Ukrainian, little bit English, a little bit Polish, and I also try to learn Greek to read New Testament in Greek. So
Good for you.
I was like this.
So, whenever someone is, I hear someone like yourself who is, speaking with an accent because English isn't your primary language, I know never to make fun of them because they know one more language than I do. So, Matt, tell us about your channel. How long ago did you start it, and what do you do with your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I posted my first video Halloween 2022. By coincidence, it wasn't a Halloween video. But what led me to starting a YouTube, a couple things. First of all, I used to work in finance. I used to make a lot of videos. I would post on LinkedIn and stuff, and I kind of found it fun making those little videos. But also the fact that I started to write a book in 2022, and this kind of alludes to what I didn't know before I came to HCU. I didn't know what I didn't know, which is a big problem because now I read what I was writing down and I'm like, what in the world? But what I realized was, and I remember God vividly telling me, like, hey, look, these are videos. This isn't a book. All the stuff you're coming up with isn't a book yet. It's a video. So I started making videos. My channel is called Matthew SBG, which stands for Matthew Saved by Grace. And the point of my channel really is not to show, is not because I'm an amazing teacher or I'm particularly smart, because I started making videos long before that happened and I'm still waiting for it. So the reason that I make videos and that I have a channel is so that people can see the glory of God. God is glorious whether or not I show him to be so. However, I would like other people to know that before it's too late, or just so they can spend their lives actually drinking the living water that is Jesus Christ instead of flopping around in a muddy puddle like I was for 22 years. So when I make a video, a lot of it is, I don't mind making mistakes. I want people to see the grace of God over the span of my lifetime. There have been personal videos where I'm talking about what I'm going through. Most videos, however, are, for example, 7 lies the devil will tell you. But really, that's just a tortilla wrap with, on the inside, just implications of the gospel, of how to walk out this gospel, of how to love one another, of how to understand Christ and unpack the love he has for us. But again, look, Matthew SBG, Saved by Grace. That's what I want people to see. And the studying of apologetics in terms of my YouTube channel, that really strengthens me. That's not because that's always what I'm talking about, but because it sharpens me as an individual. It's making me more whole. The more I understand about Christ and about what he's done for us. From an intellectual standpoint, it strengthens me so that I can better reveal the grace of God and his glory on my channel through, at the moment, it's teachings, but maybe one day it will be, some more lifestyle stuff. Maybe I'll be preaching. Maybe one day I can go speak. I don't think that's coming anytime soon, but I do know that that's what I'm sowing into, and that's what God is cultivating in my heart, and I really enjoy it. I love it. I love making videos. I love talking about what God has shown me. I actually made a video, Dr. Licona, based upon the paper that I wrote for you in a final, but I didn't post it because I wanted to do it again. It wasn't it wasn't as sharp as I wanted it to be. I didn't do justice to the topic, and I didn't set it up right either. But that video is probably going to come in the next sort of 6-7 months, but I want to get it right. And I'm still armed with your books. So I look forward to making that video. And I wouldn't be surprised if I went more into the apologetic side of things now. At some point, but for right now, I'm doing what God's put in front of me, and we'll see where that goes with Matthew SPG.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Don't feel bad about, looking back at times and you're saying, I was wrong back then. And, I remember Stephen Jay Gould, famous atheist biologist, and he was just saying, don't even read my former books. Because he had changed his mind. Now, I would say, if you're not ever changing your mind as you're going through the education process, and even afterward, even after getting my PhD, I've changed my mind on some things, or some things that I held real strongly before. Maybe I'm not so holding them as strongly now. We just grow in our knowledge. We get time for things to marinate in our minds so that we think through them more carefully. And if we're dealing and thinking through this with integrity, I think it's normal to change our minds on some things. If we're not changing our minds, we're not really thinking through some things. Nobody has all the answers correctly. Now, I remember when I was in college, after my freshman year, I thought, I know I answered all these things. Now, what are your questions? But, you grow, and the more you learn, the more you understand that you don't know. And the more you dig into like an area of where you specialize in an area, then you get to understand that things aren't as clear and aren't as simple as you once thought they were. Like the process of, I don't think either of you taken my course yet, Scripture and Apologetics Implications, right? Have either of you taken that course? You took it, Mikhail? No?
No.
So in there, one of the things we started, and I think it's the first week, we talk about canonicity. How did the formation of the biblical canon occur? And, one thing I've come to realize over the years, it's not nearly as clear cut as I once thought and was taught years ago. But the Bible is what it is. The Bible is as God intended for it to be, and we don't have to fear truth. It's not like when we learn some things that we may change our mind, that God gets mad at us. As long as we're basing it on integrity, God knows our hearts. And I think we just need to seek truth with integrity and as much honesty. We're going to be wrong at some things. I'm sure I'm going to die I know I'm going to die at some point, but I think I'm sure I'm going to die with some beliefs that are wrong. But we just want to seek truth, and we don't have to fear truth, wherever it leads us. So, I listen, I admire both of you guys, what you're doing, and you all have been great students. And I'm looking forward to seeing where your channels go in the future. Proud to call you HCU students. I'm really glad you're here. And thank you so much for joining us today. Any final words from either of you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate Matt. I really liked our discussions in the forum, our engagement. So it was great, and thank you so much for your work, because the problem, for example, of contradictions in the gospel, it was a huge problem for me, and because of your books, of your works, it was really, really helpful to me at some time ago. So I really appreciate your work, and I appreciate HCU. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, God, for this moment. So thanks.
Mikhail, what was your YouTube handle again?
Yeah, it is in Russian and in Ukraine, so I don't think it would be relevant to you, but it is like Reasonable Faith Eastern Europe. So I'm chapter director in Ukraine of Reasonable Faith, so it's just called Reasonable Faith Eastern Europe. And I have a few videos in English, but mostly it in Russian or in Ukrainian.
Cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Licona, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for coming on, both of you. God bless you. Look forward to seeing you in the future.